GATE Herts was set up in 2010 to represent Gypsies and Travellers in Hertfordshire, to give them a platform where they can have their voices heard.
I define hate crime as a range of behaviour where the perpetrator is motivated by hostility towards the victim, using their religion, their race, their gender, their sexuality. It could be verbal, threatening, intimidation.
The effects of hate crime have an impact on families, on communities. The psychological effects of hate crime can impact on people's mental health. Hate crime towards Gypsies and Travellers is becoming more common.
Report Racism, it was set up in 2016. In the first 6 months, we had 100 reports of hate crime. In the following 6 months, when we started putting it out on social media, working with other organisations, sharing it, then the reports quadrupled. And we know that we're getting a tiny percentage of what is actually happening.
We moved to Kent about 12 years ago. We bought an old rundown bungalow. We knocked it down and built a new one, and also put some mobile homes on there. We put in for planning for a gypsy licence for me and my family, and that's when all the village turned on me. The residents set up an action group against us, and over 300 complaints came flooding in. I spoke to a neighbour and asked what the problem is. She said, "We just don't want to live next door to gypsies. It will devalue the whole area and the crime rate will go up. We were made to feel like criminals and scum for owning a piece of land. This wouldn't happen to any other group. There is good and bad in everyone, and this is out of order. This is accepted racism, and I can't take it anymore."
I run a home maintenance company, and one morning me and my team arrived to an address that we're working at in East London, but the delivery of materials hadn't arrived, so I thought, well, I'll take the boys out for breakfast. We headed into this pub, and a nice waitress came over to take our order. But halfway through taking it, she was suddenly called to the bar by the boss. She came back after a few minutes and said, "I've been told I'm not to serve you because you're travellers." And so I calmly approached the pub manager and I said, "All we want is a bit of breakfast." But it didn't make a difference. "I've had your kind here before causing trouble," he said. I thought, well, he can't refuse to serve me because I'm a traveller. He called the police, and when they arrived, I explained I was being refused service because of my ethnicity, but the police told me that I'd have to leave as the manager had a right to refuse service and I could be arrested for a public disorder offence. So we left. We had no choice. I've never reported it because, well, I couldn't believe anyone would want to listen to me. I still don't.
I was working at a big chain hotel for a few months, getting on well, when I noticed there seemed to be some regular group emails being shared around, with the subject heading "Friends in-house." It was only when I started to read the emails and hear conversations around the office that I realized this meant there were gypsies staying in a hotel, and it was meant as a warning to staff. I never hid my background from the hotel, and it was clear on my CV that I had worked with Roma organizations before. 6 months into the job, my supervisor asked if I was a gypsy and told me the emails meant there were gypsies staying at the hotel. He said they were afraid because gypsies tend to break everything, and then they have to renovate after gypsies had stayed there. My relationship with my supervisor and manager quickly got worse. I felt increasingly excluded, and I could still hear the events team turning down wedding bookings if they knew the bookings were from gypsies. I wanted to leave, but didn't want to say anything until I found a new job, and I would need references. But most importantly, I didn't want to jeopardize the chance of reporting the racism through proper channels. When I stopped working there, I wanted to report the racism, but no matter where I turned, no one seemed to listen until I spoke to GATE Herts. They listened and understood where I was coming from and recognized the problem actually exists instead of ignoring it. We're even talking about setting up training for hotel staff and other kinds of occupations about discrimination in the workplace.
A GATE Herts caseworker will firstly log your incident. They'll put it through to True Vision, which is a police website. When it comes back from the police, we can get in touch with the CPS. Another thing we do is we've sent to the CPS community impact statements, so that will help in the court process. It'll let the judge know the psychological effects it has on the community.
If you don't speak up about hate crime, then it didn't happen. Nobody knows about it, it didn't occur, it's not going to change, it's going to get worse, things don't go away. But if you raise your head above the parapet and you let us know, we will help you in every way that we can. And if we can get the government, and if we can get the police, and we can get the court systems and the schools to understand the prejudice, discrimination and hate that we suffer as a community in the UK, then hopefully we might be able to change things. But if we just keep quiet, nothing's ever going to change.